Hello, here are 5 reasons why an eMTB is so much better than an MTB in winter conditions. Number 1 is momentum. You don't have to push your bike through muddy ground and get your feet wet. Number 2 is the fact that you cover so much more ground in a shorter space of time, especially true on those shorter days. Number 3, well, if you do decide to ride in the night, then you have the ability to connect your lights direct to your battery. Number 4 will be uphill potential. You can actually ride steep uphills in the mud. And number 5 is the fact that the added weight of an eMTB gives you a little bit more grip. Now, truth be told, winter ain't that much different to the summer. Yes, it's a little bit warmer, but wet weather riding is a 12-month thing, not just something that happens in the winter. So all those things I just talked about, you could apply them to the summer as well. And here in the UK, well, April, May and June are the driest months, but from then on, it gets progressively wetter. So what would my top 5 winter riding tips be? Number 1, go on holiday, go and ride somewhere warmer. Number 2 is actually get out and ride your bike in the winter. And whilst doing so, go and ride the trails which you'd normally do in the summer as well. And don't ride them any differently. Number 3, or is this number 4? Now my colleague Rich over on EMBN says, go and ride trail centres in the winter because they're a more enduring experience. I totally disagree with that because I think lots of trail centres in the winter can have lots of puddles hanging around. Go on an adventure ride because up in the hills on top of the mountains, you'll have far less puddles and it'll open up a totally new type of riding for you. Number 5 would be buy some wellies because with a wellie on a flat pedal, you can get that hook into your pedal, far more safe experience out on the hills. Number 6, buy a piece of cardboard to go outside your car or van so you can change when you get in. Number 7 is go and invest in a pair of mud tyres, such as maybe a Schwalbe shredder, because I guarantee you it'll change your life. Now there's a few bike kit related things which I'd like to cover, which will actually give you a better experience in the winter. I've talked about tyres, mud tyres, which I truly do believe are game changing. Also fit a mud guard, and whilst you're doing so, don't be part of the fashion police, but fit a rear mud guard as well. Next up is flat pedals. Get used to your bike moving around and sliding in the corners, so flat pedals are really important. Actually, on the subject of flat pedals, my colleague Rich over on EMBN, now Rich says that flat pedals offer more smiles, more fun, they eradicate loads of worries, there's no fear or worry when you're riding your bike, crashing in any kind of weird, twisty, unfortunate way. So why wouldn't you ride flat pedals all year is my question. And I'll add to that, Rich also says that you need to adopt a riding style for winter. I don't kind of get that because if you ride flat pedals and you go mud tyres, you can actually ride in winter exactly as you would ride in the summer. And that is a really key mindset to adopt. Ride in the winter in the same way as you'd ride in the summer. Now, to be fair to Rich, I don't want to totally throw him under the bus because riding in the winter does teach you some really good fundamental mountain bike skills, because when you have a bike which is moving around underneath you a lot more, it does actually teach you how to ride looser. And riding looser is a key skill, whether it be summer or winter. Should we talk clothing? No, when I was riding mountain bike back in the 80s. No, when I was riding a mountain bike back in the 1980s, I had tracksuit bottoms, a coat and some wellies. Yes, I know the fashion police are constantly after me for riding wellies, but I genuinely believe there's a performance advantage from using them. A, you'll have warm feet. 2, you'll have dry feet. And 3, you'll have control on that flat pedal. It'll hook you in there, which, let's face it, is a safety aspect when you're riding an e-mountain bike. Right, let's not joke about clothing. I think there's lots of nonsense spoken about clothing. For example, you talk waterproof coats, but actually waterproof coats I've not come across one which works in horizontal rain in the Scottish Highlands. I actually did a ride with Danny McCaskill a couple of years ago where I can skip as well, but on my feet. That is ridiculous. The conditions were so extreme, it was unbelievable. But you know what? Got back to the car, and within 1 minute, Danny McCaskill stood next to me, and he was in his tracksuit bottoms and his base layer. I said, "How did you get changed so quick?" He says, "What are you on about? I just took my waterproofs off." And he was actually wearing waterproofs that actually worked. I mean, they were £400 for a set of bottoms, but there you go. If I was to narrow down the clothing, and I think clothing will give you a performance advantage in the winter. Obviously, it depends on how cold and how wet it is. I'll start off with a really good base layer. I think if conditions are, you know, around about freezing, a good base layer and a good coat, you can ride in those two things all day long. Gloves, obviously, if it's really cold. Some people use a buff, I don't. And then there's this thing. Now, this is an old jacket. It's a Primaloft jacket. I've had it like, I don't know, 8 years. It folds down into a ball, and I literally go everywhere in the winter with this jacket. So base layer and a jacket like that, and maybe a waterproof coat. What else have we got? I think a few final things. I mean, glasses are really important. You don't have to spend over £200 on riding glasses. You can get perfectly good ones for about 30 quid, which protect your eyes and give you good visibility in the winter and the colder days. And then finally, you're looking at shoes. I've been lucky enough to use some Gore-Tex boots last winter. I think they were Physiques, really comfortable and really warm at the same time. So a few basic items there to make your riding more enjoyable. I don't want you guys to go away without me focusing in on those tyres, the mud tyres, which enable you to do ever more technical climbs and just give you grip both downhill and uphill. Just want to point out these tyres are the Schwalbe Shredders, 2.5 volume with Gravity Pro casing, which means you can run lower pressures, and ultra soft compound. They've also got a deeper tread profile, which digs in on those off cambers, on those flat corners, and also on those technical climbs. And I think that's about it. In conclusion, there's one more thing to think about, and that is the post-ride wash. Now, this can vary. There's different levels to this. Now, I know my colleague Owen has done a masterclass in cleaning. I think, however, you can maybe overdo it on cleaning. You wouldn't, after all, you wouldn't find a farmer washing his quad every day of the week because it's going to get dirty. So another approach would be literally chuck it in the shed and ride it next day. I think there's a compromise to be had. I think a hose with a brush and maybe some loam foam, which we use on the channel from PT's, and then brush it off. And, you know, it's a bit of an in-between fix because I think winter on an e-mountain bike is a great thing. You might actually find yourself riding more in winter than you've ever done before. So folks, there's a few basics when it comes to winter riding. Hope that helps, but I'm sure there's loads more factors and tips which you can get for winter riding. And if you've got some, please leave them in the comments down below.